Media ownership, described by a lot of people as a dry and or complex topic, and to be honest, I would have to agree. On the face of it, this topic involves looking at the media we consume, the companies that run those sources, and the major shareholders of those companies. Job done. Or so you would think.
Media ownership is an issue that extends beyond who simply owns a single media organisation. The importance of media ownership is clear when you discover the large number of media outlets that are owned by only a handful of giant media corporations. Hence, I found this topic interesting, not dull, and of great importance for me and others to understand.
Also, alongside the importance of media ownership, the topic will be way less dull if a cool kid in a bucket hat explains it. Australia stands out as one of the most concentrated media markets in the world. No other company highlights this problem better than News Corporation. News Corp is owned by multi-millionaire media monolith Rupert Murdoch, aka Big Daddy Murdoch. News Corp owns 59% of the metropolitan and national print media market. Also, News Corp and two other companies control almost 90% of the metropolitan radio licenses in Australia. Furthermore, News Corp collects 40% of Australian free-to-air and subscription TV revenues. Cheers.
All these percentages lead to one conclusion. Big Daddy Murdoch and News Corp own a lot of the print, radio and TV media market in Australia. Good for them, I guess. Maybe not. Further research highlights a much more sinister reality underlying these statistics.
To research this topic, I initially used sources recommended in the lecture on media ownership. The sources that I further researched were the Frankfurt School Theory and David McKnight's book, that specifically discussed Murdoch's empire. I also used the LexisNexis and ProQuest databases to research further academic sources. I found Baker's book on why ownership matters and why media ownership should be democratically distributed. I found Lindbergh's article on media ownership concentration in Australia, with specific criticism of News Corp. I also found Herman Chomsky's book that describes the propaganda model, explaining the interest that media corporations serve, which is applicable to the Murdoch press. Finally, through general Google research, I discovered a report commissioned by GetUp that is an extensive statistical study of the media interests in Australia.
All this research is best explained using some real-world examples.
The front page of the July 17th, 2020 issue of the Daily Telegraph features the headline, Dan May Disaster. This was in reference to the Victorian Premier, Daniel Andrews' handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, with various listed criticisms of his response to the spread of the virus. The language used is highly critical and emotional, showing the merging of fact and opinion. The front page of the October 18th, 2020 issue of the Daily Telegraph boasts an interview with Gladys Berejiklian, accompanied by the headline, I loved him, but I'll never speak to him again. This was in relation to Gladys Berejiklian having an undeclared relationship with fellow Liberal MP Daryl Maguire, who was found to be highly corrupt. Also, in a phone call between Maguire and Berejiklian, Maguire shared his corrupt dealings, to which Berejiklian replied that she did not need to know about them. The Daily Telegraph article and front page depict Berejiklian as the victim in the situation, and avoids any criticism of her involvement in the scandal. Also, there is no mention of the fact that the relationship was undeclared.
Interestingly, Daniel Andrews is a member of the Victorian Labor Party, whereas Gladys Berejiklian is a member of the New South Wales Liberal Party. The Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance provides a code of ethics for journalists. Rule 1 of the code states that journalists must report and interpret honestly, striving for accuracy, fairness and disclosure of all essential facts. Also, journalists should not suppress relevant available facts or give distorting emphasis. Rule 4 states that journalists must not allow personal interest or any belief, commitment, payment, gift or benefit to undermine their accuracy, fairness or independence.
In the Daniel Andrews front page example, the use of emotive language and heavy criticism shows the journalist allowing their personal interest or belief to undermine the fairness of the article. This goes against Rule 4 of the MEAA Journalist Code of Ethics. Contrastingly, the Gladys Berejiklian article does not criticise her potential knowledge of her lover's corrupt dealings, nor does it mention the fact that she did not declare this relationship to the ICAC. This indicates that the journalist did not report honestly and did not disclose all essential facts, therefore breaching Rule 1 of the Journalist Code of Ethics. This breach seems to be for the purpose of painting Berejiklian as the victim of the situation, and to bolster her public image rather than presenting the public with the entire truth.
The Frankfurt School of Critical Thought argued that the media was a tool of oppression, used to circulate one ideology and resultantly contribute to the loss of reason within society. As indicated by the Andrews and Berejiklian examples, the Daily Telegraph, owned by News Corp and Big Daddy Murdoch, appears to circulate the single ideology of Liberal National Party superiority and harsh criticism of the Labour Party. In this way, the media is used as a tool of oppression, as described by the Frankfurt School, that attempts to control the political stance of society. This is contrary to the intended role of the media as being a purely unbiased distributor of information and acting as the fourth estate of Parliament. The circulation of the pro-liberal ideology goes a long way to contributing to the loss of democratic reasoning in greater society. People lose their ability to reason democratically when the information they are consistently being fed reiterates the favourability of the Liberal Party, even when they are involved in corruption, and villainises any Labour Party decision. This means society is more likely to favour parties that are conservatively aligned, as the mass media, like elections, serve to mediate between the public and the government.
You may be thinking, how do all the journalists push the same agenda? Surely there is some merit to their bias if so many News Corp editors believe it. Let me put it to you this way. If Monkey paid journalists to write, Monkey can tell journalists what to write.
Big Daddy Murdoch hires editors who are already politically aligned with him. After this, within News Corp, there is a secretive corporate culture where Murdoch holds private political seminars for editors that clarify the ideology and stance they will take on current issues. This ensures a single, unified ideology is being pushed. News Corp also sponsors conservative think tanks to come up with the familiar, recurring editorial campaigns that are pushed around the world. These News Corp practices mean editors will take specific stances on public policy issues that align with Murdoch and his conservative ideology. Sadly, Murdoch's relentless agenda pushing has a profound and negative impact on the public sphere. The public sphere is where members of society can voluntarily come together to openly discuss and debate issues. Importantly, in order for the public sphere to function effectively, its participants need to have equal access to quality, unspun information and facts. Otherwise, no debate occurs in the public sphere, as participants have been portrayed a particular set of facts and pushed into a single political stance.
My research into this topic has shown that there is a clear problem with media ownership in Australia. Murdoch's News Corp and other news corporations such as the recently merged mega giants Fairfax 9 and Seven West Media own a big percentage of the media in Australia. News Corp specifically seems to have a heavy bias toward the Liberal Party, campaigning against the Labour Party on every government level, which breaches the MEAA Journalist Code of Ethics. The media is used as a tool of oppression, achieved through specific agenda pushing perpetuated within the News Corp culture. This has a net negative effect on the debate within the public sphere.
At the end of the day, one thing is clear. Something needs to be done about News Corp, Big Daddy Murdoch, and media ownership concentration as a whole. The Senate has held inquiries into the future of public interest journalism and, more recently, into media diversity. Various policy responses have been proposed to solve the problem. Firstly, public broadcasters must have an increase in government funding, as opposed to the $254 million that has been cut since 2014. The public broadcaster is more likely to be impartial, as they are not subject to the same editorial filters and commercial interests as media corporations. Another proposal is to increase funding for public interest journalism, subsidising other smaller media organisations to avoid a media monopoly. Finally, re-regulating media ownership in Australia. This would include reinstating the 2 out of 3 rule, meaning media giants could not have their fingers in so many media pies. Through these policy responses, Australia can take a little step toward a better media landscape that is not as concentrated as it is today.